Good morning, everyone, and welcome for another live video AMA. My name is Amandine Flachs, and if you're new here, every 2 weeks on Saturday morning, we are hosting a live AMA with startup founders and startup folks. And today I have the pleasure to be here with Arnaud and Ben, the co-founders of Othership, also formerly known as We Coffee. And before I let them introduce themselves, I'd like to invite everyone to join the discussion on the chat because, well, that's the reason why we are live, right? So you can ask your own question and just let us know what you're up to and just react to what we say. So feel free to join the chat. I monitor everything and I make sure to pass your question immediately to Ben and Arnaud. Also, well, if you have to go or if you want to catch up with my previous video, every live AMA is available on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Amandine Flachs, and today's video will be available there on Monday afternoon, just to give me some time to clean up the video, add a thumbnail and this kind of stuff, boring stuff. Also, well, maybe you don't know, but this series of live AMA started with video games, and we used to play video games on the stream with my guests, but now, well, you know, with the pandemic and everything, we had to adapt a bit the format. But I want to bring that back in some way, so I am right now working on a gaming evening for maybe next week. So if you want to have more information, I'll be working on that this weekend, and maybe you can join the Discord channel and we can bounce back ideas over the weekend. I'm going to test a few games and make sure we can have, I don't know, something chill out for the community to join, or we'll see. Still discussing ideas, so we can join the chat and help me figure this out. Anyway, that's it for my blurb. I am super happy to have today Arnaud and Ben. Good to have you here. How are you doing?
Oh no, I always go first. Why don't I let you answer for once?
You can see me waiting a couple seconds to give you the upper end in the conversation, right? Thank you, Amandine. Thanks for having us today. So hey everyone, I'm Arnaud. I'm co-founder of Othership. By the way, Amandine, I'm really sad that we're not going to play video games. So I want to be re-invited whenever you do that again.
Sure thing, yeah.
Definitely, yeah, because I mean, there's going to be nothing like crushing Ben at a video game. So yeah, I want to do that live stream. That would be great. So hey everyone, I'm Arnaud. I'm co-founder of Othership. We started this journey about 2 years ago. Prior to that, I was in sort of a mainstream job at a consultancy, worked for digital projects mainly, and then did a bit of an M&A kind of job for automotive mainly, automotive companies acquiring startups, doing some digital innovation projects. And then just traveling around Europe, I sort of like had this idea of finding new spaces to work from, because I was always struggling finding places in WeWorks or McDonald's, and I never had something in the middle that was both affordable and nice to work from. So I had this rant to Ben one day, and he was working on a project very similar on a platform, and that's how the idea came up about 2 years ago. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'll let Ben introduce himself now.
So yeah, I'm Ben. I'm always the very chatty one, hence I gave Arnaud some space. I am definitely up for coming and playing some games with you on a future one as well, Amandine. And Arnaud seems very confident here, but then I have also played him at table football, which I recommend if you value your ego at all, don't do this. Because he is rather good. But yeah, I'm Ben. I'm the other co-founder, Othership, and yeah, it was Arnaud's sort of brainchild or problem that he was facing. And as someone who'd worked for many years as a freelancer and a contractor, we took a look at what else was out there, what was available for people. And I think we've come up with something really innovative. And the difference that we've always done, and the value that I think both Arnaud and I hold, is to make sure that we're a member of our own business. We're a consumer of our own business, and we join our own community. As you hear, we'll talk about, we're very community driven. And we're part of that. It's been really exciting because it means that we're able to make something that people really want. So even whilst we're on a limited budget, the people who come and join us, it's super sticky. And we've been excited to grow through this sort of mechanism, and it's been such a fun experience to do, and I absolutely love it. And that's me.
It's so nice to have you both here, and also because I've been chatting with both of you individually in the past, it's very good to have you both in the room. So you've started like touching on different points, but I think it may be good for everyone to get some foundation and better understand the business itself. Can you describe how it works really? You mentioned that's something you want to also be customer of, but so what is Othership, and also how did it started? I know you mentioned you started touching on that, but what's the story behind the company?
Yeah, I scratched the surface, didn't I? So yeah, to go into a little more detail. So I was working for a consultancy that was sending me throughout Europe, basically at some point. So I was going through Paris, Helsinki, and a couple of other cities. And basically, so we didn't have any offices in those cities. So I was always bouncing between the clients, and then basically finding myself after the meeting with the client, well, what now? So looking for places to work from. Obviously, I knew about WeWork because I was aware of WeWork as a brand in general. So I sort of like tried to reach out to them, but then I found out like the prices were just completely nuts, and my company wouldn't just cover the costs of a WeWork. So I started to do what everyone else does and go to cafes and restaurants and things like this. But it was really hard for me to find a place that was not noisy, that was not suitable for work, and I got really frustrated at some point. I was like, how can this be that I cannot find something suitable to work? And this is how it was sort of triggered really. It started with the workspace kind of frustration really. So I was always chatting to Ben because I worked with Ben for a few years. And we sort of like built that friendship, and then after we split and Ben went on to a different job in a different company, we still kept in touch and we were constantly talking. So obviously when I was ranting at something, I was ranting with Ben. So I was like, I don't understand how this is that this something like this doesn't exist. And originally I wanted to build like this some sort of like distributed network of cafes specifically made for working. And Ben was like, well, that's a great idea, but do you have about £1 million to sort of like start a few cafes? And I was like, oh, that's a fair point. No, I don't. So he said, well, instead of doing that, why don't we use existing venues with, spare capacity during the day and try and build something like this, which is more like a platform that utilizes something that already exists instead of building more. And I thought that was a brilliant idea, so I started doing a bit of research, and that's how it started really. And then it built up to something tiny bit different, where now we're obviously a lot community focused, and the workspaces are one aspect of our business only. A bit like a WeWork, I imagine, in the beginning would be just a workspace, and now it's more, I was trying to be more of a community. And yeah, but this is how it started really. Am I forgetting anything then?
No, I don't think so. It is exactly where we started. We wanted to make something hyper accessible so that for people who were moving around, they had what they needed, like just on tap, and ideally even without paying anything. That's how we really started, was that people could come in as a free model and find places that we'd sort of handpicked and vetted to go and work from. What we really learned was crazy though. We learned that for so many people who were using these type of spaces sort of pre-coronavirus, and now it's probably apparent to everyone, but before it wasn't obvious, that the reason people were getting out their house to go and find somewhere to work from was generally to sort of engage maybe with other people, to have some level of accountability while other people were working around them so that they would have to work rather than sort of sit on their phone or do the laundry or those sort of distractions at home. To celebrate your little wins throughout the day when something goes well and turn around to the person next to you and be like, hey, yeah, I just won a contract, or this went well, or sometimes your 4-year-old doesn't appreciate and you're working from home or something along these lines. And It was crazy just through running these networking events. Actually, we ran these networking events on Wednesdays to showcase our free workspaces that people could work at. And what happened was the people who used to come to these became our sort of like hyper advocates. They became our friends. We all started working and doing projects and contracts with each other. And it was like this light bulb went off in Arnaud and I's head that actually what we were doing wasn't connecting people to places, but connecting people to other people in workplaces and online. So obviously there are some people who use it just to come out and have a workspace and an office space. But for loads of people, it's become this membership where you can come and join when you're on that transition in that time of your life from where you're living or where you're working from or the job you're doing or you're starting a business. And there are others, hence Othership, that you can come to and speak to as other members in our membership. And we're all there to support each other. And it's sort of like this huge family. And it's amazing the power that you get behind yourself as a small business when you're supported by 2,000 or 3,000, 4,000 other small businesses who all have your back to help answer a question, to give you a network, to tell you where there's a good investor in your business and things. And this is the bit that we fell in love with completely. Like building the website was kind of entertaining, running the workspaces was interesting. But this is just something very special that we're quite emotional about, I would say. Like we love our members. They are truly our friends, our colleagues now. It's been a crazy journey.
But that's very exciting, especially right now, because as you mentioned, with the pandemic, there have been lots of changes, right? And I think it's funny because people who used to work kind of remotely or just not be stuck to one office and travel a lot, those people are more flexible and used to kind of this flexible working. But now with the pandemic, there have been more and more people who had to adapt to that. Do you think it has any effect on what you do? And also, can you explain what you mean on your website when you talk about flow working? It's kind of like a quick word, something that you're using several times on the website. So what it is really, and how is the future of work really going on right now? Like, how do people work, and how is this going to change in the coming months potentially?
Oh no, do you mind if I grab this?
Definitely not. That's for you.
Definitely not. Cool.
That's for you, yeah.
So we had an absolute hardcore belief when we launched the business that within sort of 25 years, the vast majority of people who were doing laptop-based jobs or desk-based jobs would be working more flexibly. Why do I say this? I mean, God, we've got the internet. Yeah, I used to work for a car company in Milton Keynes, and I used to get up, I lived in London, and commute from 5, 6 o'clock in the morning to get there for 7 or 8 in the morning. And I used to then sit behind a desk and email people in Japan. And then I used to finish work, and I used to finish maybe about 7 or 8 o'clock at night to miss the traffic on the M1 and drive back for 2 hours. It's crazy. I was pissing out carbon emissions. I was practically falling asleep on the motorway, which is insanely dangerous. My quality of life and mental health was so poor from lack of sleep. And then my productivity must have been lower than it should have been. I mean, I wrote a load of macros to automate bits of my job because I like doing this. But yeah, my productivity definitely would have been better if I was not half asleep like most of the time. It's just crazy. Why do we do it? And so this is what we believed. And then what happened with coronavirus for us was it accelerated 25 years like that overnight. Everyone suddenly started working from home and realizing, I think, as a fundamental shift, probably from a management perspective, that this could operate. I believe most people had wanted to work more flexibly previously. No one likes that drudge into the office. Yes, we like to go and see our colleagues sometimes. Going in on a Friday and having a Friday drink is great fun. Who doesn't want to do this? Monday morning, no, probably less likely that we're all dying to do this. And now management have seen that actually using things like Microsoft Teams, like Othership, like Slack, we are able to run probably more efficiently in many ways than before. Yes, there are problems on how you build connections with people, and that's where services like our enterprise service comes in to try and assist companies to do this. But I think it's been a fundamental shift that won't go back. I used to work with an engineer at Ford Motor Company who once said to me, you can give someone a better solution, but if it's not easier for them, they won't adopt it. And I look at this in the other way now. It's going to be like trying to push water uphill to get people to move back into their office 5 days a week. It's harder to get them to go and commute again. We've got used to it. We've proven it works. Trust us. Let us do this. And yes, we need to work through some of the problems on how we get together on an occasional basis.
That's so true. I haven't been commuting for many years, so I can't remember how it's like. But yes, that is so true, and I love that it comes from such a personal experience. Now, from the venue perspective, I remember when I was young student, I was living in a flat. I couldn't pay for the internet, and so I was spending all my days in the McDonald's next to me. I was clearly sitting there for the entire weekend. I knew everyone there. I was helping people out, trying to give direction to people because they could see that I was really established there. I had my desk that was kind of more or less reserved. I had my coffee when I arrived. Very, very organized, but always the same thing at McDonald's. And I always wonder, what if one day they ask me to go? Like, what happened if actually they're not really happy with me being around all the time, only drinking one coffee, not buying any food because I don't eat fast food? And what if they just throw me out? So how do the venue react? Are they rather happy, and are they very welcoming to this kind of people working from their place?
Do you mind if I grab that one, Ben? You can tell we both have our field.
You go for it.
So obviously there was a little bit of reluctancy in the beginning from the venue side, from some of the venues actually, not all of them, because lots of them were very quiet during the day. So they were like, well, if someone's sitting here and doesn't really consume anything, it doesn't really make a difference because my seat is empty anyway. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? So for lots of venues, it wouldn't make a difference. So for example, we work with a lot of pubs in the UK that are completely empty throughout the day. So these guys, for example, have never challenged the benefits of having more people sitting around, even if it's just for having coffees, because they know what's going to happen at the end of the day is that they're going to have after work drinks, for example. So this is how they're going to leverage having more people through the day. But then some of the more busy venues, obviously we're challenging this and we're saying, well, what's going to happen? And then we found out that, well, people who come and go outside to work, they actually do buy some things like coffees and food, etc. So that we spend on average on our work life about £20 a day. And this is something that we quickly found out, and basically most of the venues we work with, well actually all of the venues we work with at the moment, are completely happy with our customers. I had a chat with another venue very recently who said they were absolutely happy to have people sitting around. It created some sort of community and created like a nice vibe, and just seeing a venue completely full with people working just gives you this impression that it must be a good venue. Which is true, yeah. If you have a lot of people, you have a good venue. So it basically, we had some challenges from venues, but very little. And I would say now they're all convinced that it actually completely works for everyone. So yeah, it works in terms of revenue, in terms of marketing. It's a very powerful marketing thing to be able to say that you've got lots of people throughout the day working from your venue. And it's also very innovative for the hospitality sector to do something like this. And I think hospitality today has a massive opportunity to seize because they've got the real estate, they've got the space, they've got the food and drinks. There's very little amenities they don't have that they can set up to sort of like become even better than a WeWork, and so much cheaper. So yeah.
Yeah, we actually have a Mark on LinkedIn who says that is a really great idea, and he loves the concept of WeWork, but he found it so expensive as well. So yes, that's the problem. And depending on where you're living, it may be more or less easy to find a nice cafe or a nice place. But sometimes you just have meetings in an area that you don't know, and well, you have to kind of expand and find new places, right? So Ashley on LinkedIn also said hi, by the way, but he also want to hear more about the next stage for We Coffee, which brings me to my question. So your company is now called Othership, but until recently you had a different name. It was We Coffee, and I think many people, especially in London, know you through this name. So how was the rebranding for you? Do people still think about you as We Coffee, and why did you decide to change the brand?
So this is a enjoyable one for us to go and change the brand. When we launched the business, what we wanted to do was make sure that we focused on the product and the service first. This was absolutely the most critically important part to us, was to make sure that it worked for people. I never wanted to have a bad customer experience. I always sort of say, if you go and get your first ever Uber and you have a terrible experience, you will blame Uber. Yeah. And that is what you will do. And you will probably not use it, or it will take you quite a while to be convinced to come back. And really, people are coming to work, and work is important. Work is money to people. It might be an important meeting that they're having for a contract, or they need to send a video off for a deadline. So to us, absolutely, like, customer experience was the very first thing that we focused on, rather than a branding perspective. And then once we got to a point where we had a few thousand members, we thought, okay, maybe we should go and come up with a brand that inspires us, that we are proud of to put out and to share, and that our members are proud to put out and share. And I think it's a little bit like sort of when you're a teenager and you put on your first style and you don't, really know what you're doing in life. And it was a little like this. And what we wanted to do is just get out and be out and about and doing stuff. And we didn't worry too much how we looked. And then we matured a little bit, and we thought, oh, okay, us and everyone who's hanging out with us probably wants to look a little cooler. So that was part of the mission. And then behind the brand that we have with Othership is we learned that we were not a booking platform, and we were going to be a membership service. And that's the direction that the business is moving in, where we build more and more meaningful connections for people, whether it's connecting them to a workplace, or connecting them to another member, or connecting them to a business partner that we have, or even an event where they can meet the right person to take their business forward and grow. So then we had Othership, which is another type of membership where other people join. They get friendship, they get mentorship, they get leadership, all these other different types of ships that come along with it. And in terms of the styling and the branding, our community said that they wanted something much bolder that reflected them as sort of independent workers who are working more remotely, who are working for themselves, not by themselves. A really interesting thing that came out that we now use in our marketing from our members. So we wanted to position ourselves like this. In terms of, do both people know? I believe most people know. I think we drew a balance where our absolute hardcore members were emailing me or messaging me saying, hey guys, can you just do this now? We're bored of the communications. We want to see it go live. And then on the other side, we have 1 or 2% of people who still weren't aware that we changed our name. So we're never going to hit absolutely everyone, but I think we hit a right balance that the vast majority of people knew. And the most important for us, again, was the venues knew. So when you come in and when you book and when you arrive, you have a seamless customer experience. Everything on the online side is fully hosted by us, so this is not a problem.
Okay. And I guess it will just take a bit of time for people to get used to it, right? Would you have any advice for other founders who go through the same thing? Anything that you've learned that you'd recommend people to do or not to do when it comes to rebranding? Because that's something lots of startups go through at some point, where they realize that, well, the initial branding that they started when they just had the first idea doesn't necessarily work with what they're trying to share right now. So any tips on that?
I think for us, the tip is to listen to your customer, isn't it, Arno? This is what we've always done. We did this a lot through the rebranding journey. It's hard because you put something out there and you give them some options and you take all this feedback. And we used to sit back afterwards, and sometimes the feedback didn't align with our own beliefs as a team. And then you have that decision of, well, do I just ignore my member community? And the answer to this is no, because why have you just otherwise gone and spent all this time speaking to them? And it does make things slower. It makes it harder, but I believe you get a better result out of the end of it. Is that fair, Arno?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's bang on. We definitely struggled at some point because obviously you want to move you want to move ahead and you want to get your brand out, especially when you do a first piece of work and you're really happy with it, etc. And then you're like, okay, we're going to do focus groups with some of our members to sort of like do a sanity check. Are we on the right track or not at all? And then then you've got the hard decision of, okay, like we've got this piece of feedback. Are we going to actually action it, or are we going to keep moving forward and sort of like ignore this, like Ben said? And obviously, I think Ben is right saying that you should always, you should never ignore what people say about your work. And then what we did was just basically just be very careful about what was said, who said it, etc., and sort of like put everything in perspective to make sure that we were not, just listening to a few people that were not necessarily representative, and we made sure that they were, and that everything they said was, in line with where we wanted to go. And ultimately it was, because I definitely believe that it got us to a better result. I mean, for sure. I was not convinced at the beginning, but I just have to admit that it is much better than if we didn't listen to them, for sure.
It definitely makes things more difficult. I was on a call last night with two of our members, actually. We are a family. We were having a long chat, not last night, night before. And it was Emma Arnaud, and she reminded me that while we were going through the rebrand, there was a point where Arnaud and I had a fundamental disagreement on something. And this shows how transparent we are as a business. We called one of our members who we thought was the perfect customer archetype and got her to join a call. And she said she joined the frostiest conversation she's ever joined. But by the end of it, we resolved our issue, and that's the answer. They're like they're like that vote on the board with the loudest voice, I guess, for us as a business, and always have been.
I love that. I've also heard many times from different people that you're actually doing a great job through the pandemic, because let's be honest, your business model initially, is kind of tricky to work with a pandemic where people are just staying at home, right? So I guess for a couple of months, nothing really happened in terms of venues because all the venues were closed. But still, everyone told me, yeah, the guys are doing a super good job. So do you think that you've been more resilient because your focus is on the community and you've been doing lots of community things to keep your community active, or is there any other secret that you've been doing?
No, I think you're right, Amandine. I think Arnaud will agree. We realised the value was the members and the membership and the community, whichever sort of word you put around this, of a collective of people. But the power that we had was the collective of people and how everyone could support each other. Whether you were someone who needed help because you were stuck on a piece of JavaScript as simple on your website, or you had a load of stress during a pandemic because you were terrified about what to do with your business, or whether you were at the other end and you were someone who could come and give back a little bit to other people. And that's where we saw the power of what we had, and we really focused on this, and I'm sure that that's what's given us this resilience through the lockdown periods. Arnaud?
Yeah, no, I agree. I left you grab that one because that's your baby, your achievement. Ben made really good decisions when the lockdown came into effect, refocusing our online efforts to connect people. Ben had this very strong gut feeling that we had a great value in our online services, So we started to put a lot of effort into how do we keep connecting people throughout the pandemic, leveraging online tools such as Zoom, keeping our events, building our Slack, building more value into our Slack group. How do we do that, etc. And I think this definitely built more resilience, and it also built more value that I believe now is still relevant even outside a pandemic. So if ever the pandemic comes to an end, the value we've built specifically for that purpose is still now relevant, I believe.
Yeah, it was amazing, wasn't it? We had people from all over the world start joining us, from India, from the US, from South America, who are still part of the community and active with the community. It really opened our eyes to solve a lot wider set of problems that people face who are working remotely and flexibly. It was really exciting, and I think it mainly culminated in this incredible showcase that we'll do sort of quarterly or biannually now. AJ, our events manager, will kill me if I commit to one or the other online. In our Orbit sort of festival, where we put on a 3-day festival of non-stop online events that were mixed of networking, pitching, workshops, and it was all driven by our community. Almost every single person who was presenting over was from our community or one of our partners that we work with, and it was crazy. And I think we had something like 700 to 1,000 people joining over 3 days, and it was just incredible to see, from something that at the start of March was 150 people in a Slack group to nearly 1,000 people, and all coming through this event, and it was really exciting. And I think we'll keep this going as well, as I said, sort of quarterly or biannually, as a sort of showcase of what you can do when you have the power of a membership in a community.
I love that, and it's interesting because I've joined one of your events and it has been extremely useful, and it was refreshing. I didn't expect it that I joined one of your events on SCIS and EIS, so it was more like a workshop, and it was so just intimate. I was expecting just a big presentation and that's it, but it was very helpful, and also people were really asking questions, talking about their own situation. And I think it's you don't necessarily think about all the questions, but when someone asks something for their own business, it can also help. So it was very useful, and I really hope that you also keep this kind of formats in the future, because I can't recommend this more. So you have a new name, you have a new website, you have events now, and for what I've seen, well, you've also started doing some stuff internationally, not just having international members, but also organizing some events in other countries. And I think you're also maybe currently fundraising. So what's the next big step for you? Your community is growing, everyone is super active, seems to be doing a great job. What's the next step for the new year now?
So the next steps for us are, with the fundraise, we've got a few ambitions that we want to achieve. So we've just started launching in Manchester and over in Bristol as well. So if anyone watching this is in those areas and you've not heard of Othership before, go and take a look. We've got some workspaces over in your areas. Also, if you have any recommendations of spaces in those locations, please let us know. We've got people who are working in those areas now. We'll go and check them out for ourselves, and always willing to bring them on board. So if you know a great coffee shop and you want a free coffee every time you turn up and plug in your laptop at a reserved seat, then maybe message down in Amandine's chat, and Amandine can pass them on to us over from the channel. That would be amazing. So we want to put more venues out to be able to reach more people across the UK. So that's our first step. We really want to look at how we're going to try and deliver a mobile app. So if we raise enough going forward, then we will deliver out a mobile application to people as well. But the main thing I think that we're going to focus on now is to make sure that we keep on building these meaningful connections. So we're looking at how we can get people who are our existing members, who know the value that we bring, to provide us with a little bit more profile data that would be shared just for us, to let us know what they really want, who they're looking for. Do you want to meet an investor? Do you want to meet creatives? Do you want to meet someone to work with in a physical venue? And if so, where is that? Whereabouts are you living? We've never asked people where they live. We've never asked anyone anything, really, if I'm completely honest, through the website. And we think people trust us now enough to know that if they give us these small bits of information, we can make it really work for them in a special way and say, okay, look, here is a freelance copywriter who can help you as a founder while you're building out your website, and you both want to co-work together in Clapham Common. Here's a great venue, and suggest this to them. So we're going to start looking more and more how we can make these kind of recommendations to people that are hyper personalized to the point where it's just a no-brainer that you're going to want to say yes because you know that we've got it right for you.
Makes sense. Yes. Oh no, I thought you were about to say something else, but yeah, no, makes sense. So we talked a lot about Othership as a company. I'd like to ask you a bit more about you two. So you both used to work with slightly larger companies, right? In the past, how was it for you to start your own adventure on your own? Like, I've seen so many people with a consulting background, for example, and when they start their own company, they really have a specific idea of what they want to do, but then how to go there and how to get into this startup mindset is sometimes a bit challenging for some people. Was it easy for you to just say, okay, that's what we want to do, we want to solve this problem, and now let's just do it? Was it easy, like natural, or did you have to go through programs or get some external help or anything else?
I wish I could say it was easy, Amandine. It was definitely not easy. But I think both Ben and I worked on projects that, if you have projects in larger corporations that are close to entrepreneurship, those will be the projects. So we've worked very close to a startup acquired in the US by a larger corporations. And sorry, I can't mention any names, but basically working on that project sort of like got us close to the closest possible from a corporation point of view to what it is to build your own business, basically. And we were also asked to investigate how to launch new digital services, etc. So all these things basically taught us a lot on how to launch a service, basically, and digital in particular. So we had like all these tools and tips, basically, that we sort of like then afterwards on our own project had to put together. So we're both very strong on project management. So I think that helped a lot throughout the process. Like prioritizing the tasks, doing strategy bits by bits and making sure things work. So all these things. But in the beginning, there's definitely, I would say, a period of time where you've got to figure out how to work together. Like what's your sweet spots, who's going to do what, etc. So all these things, like I think, even if you've done projects before like this, I think everyone has got to go through that phase where you've got to find your sweet spots basically as a team. And it takes a bit of time, I think, for everyone.
Especially as you have quite a similar background. How do you do that? Do you have like clear area? Like, have you taken each an area that you keep as yours? Like maybe one of you looks after the venue, the other is more focused on the community, or do you more like work on everything together, like synchronize and then distribute the work between the two of you?
So yeah, whilst you're right, Amandine, we both worked in consulting and together for quite a long time, but actually our backgrounds are somewhat different. So we did both do engineering degrees, but Arnaud never worked as an engineer. I'm a bit older than Arnaud. I spent 8 years working in automotive engineering, designing sort of special vehicle systems, so electric vehicles, stuff for Bugatti, a couple of military pieces as well. I have quite a technical background, whereas Arnaud came out of university and went pretty much straight into consulting sales before coming and doing sort of strategic management consulting over in the UK with me and the account that we were running. Sorry, I try always go to say the name and then I have to pull it back, so I stammer a little bit occasionally. It's on my LinkedIn. I'm sure you can go and see anyway. It's not that bad. It was good fun doing this. But yeah, I had this strong technical background. So when we launched the business, I enjoyed technical things. I absolutely loved them. So we wanted to really go through the sort of startup journey of being a lean startup, something that I had sort of learned about in management consulting and taught and tried to implement, but we'd never done it ourselves when you don't have the resource of marketing teams and all these other bits. Yeah, we were more strategy and project management. So I dived into tech so that we wouldn't have to pay out to go and build something from the beginning, and that way we could iterate it very, very quickly. And that's my technical background in here. I then ended up picking up bits of marketing because generally I was doing most of the development of the website. And quickly you realize that that involves copywriting. And so you're like, oh, okay. So people go, how do technical and marketing sort of sit together? And I'm like, well, I'm quite a chatty person and things. And then you're building the website and you've got to put words on it. And then you're looking in your analytics. Is someone clicking through the pages? And they're not. Okay, what do I do? Go back and change the wording, try this on a button. Quite scientific. You're doing a lot of split testing and things like this as well. So that's where I naturally ended up falling within the business. Whereas Arnaud had been, as I said, starting off in sales effectively, I guess, as a consulting sales, and picked up our outreach for B2B. So we'd go and speak to large business partners that would be signing up as networks of venues and manage this side of the business, along with all our finances, our business forecasting, our business planning, and everything that was sort of more on the management side and the corporate side. Today is probably the first time I'm not in a hoodie. Arnaud is in a shirt. Arnaud's always in a shirt. He's always smart. It's just sort of where our natural bits lie in the business. Do you think that's fair, Arnaud? I think we do very well at putting these lines up for us.
I think that's very fair. I think that's exactly what's going on. And this is a funny question because we were literally talking about this like a week ago. Ben was asking me, like, is there anything I'm doing now that you would like to do? And I was like, well, no, not really. I never thought about it. I never really asked myself that question. But I was like, well, is there anything that Ben is doing right now that I would like to do? And I was like, nah. Actually, it would be a pain. And same for Ben. On the other hand, like Ben loves what he's doing, and for nothing in the world would pick up anything I do. So we sort of found a sweet spot here. So yeah, I think that's entirely fair, and I think the differences in our backgrounds explain a lot because, as Ben said, he has a technical background that I do not have. And when you think of marketing, I think we tend to forget that there is a lot of data analysis, it's something that relates a lot to engineering in a way because you have to go through the data and understand it, which is why I think Ben loves that. When I'm not necessarily a fan of huge data sets and how I'm going to make the most of it. So yeah, I think we've definitely found a sweet spot here. Yeah.
I think it's good for people to understand like how division work within a company because I've seen so many founders looking for co-founders and trying to maybe overthink the complementary skills they need. But I think that the more I talk to founders, whether they have on paper a background that sounds a bit similar or not, most of the time it happens naturally. As a founder, you just need to do whatever needs to be done and you have to pick up new skills and do whatever you have to do to make it work, right? So I feel that it just happened naturally and it's more about having a good chemistry with your co-founder rather than necessarily having already all the skills and covering everything because anyway you will have to pick up new things. But yeah, I'd like to just invite everyone to ask the question while we still have a couple of minutes left on the chat. If you have any additional question, I know Ocarpe Diem, you said something about microbiology labs running through the same problem, having to find like labs to do your research and booking labs. So yeah, I guess you get the pain even if you're not running your startup. In terms of the community, you mentioned many times the community, and I get that this is a huge part of your business now. I've met lots of founders, especially first-time founders, who get the feedback. Oh yeah, you should join communities. You should talk to other founders, and I say that to everyone also. But I realized that many of them just don't know where to start and how to find your first community. So how do you approach that, and how did yourself got involved before starting your own community? Did you just started by building your own community, or did you started by being involved in other communities? And do you feel that it's also more important to find people who are at the same stage as you are, so you can exchange on the same step you're going through? Or is it more important to find people who understand your industry, and so you can, well, talk about the industry itself?
Can I take that one on? Is that all right? I just think on a community side, I think it's a really interesting question, actually, Amandine. I joined a couple of groups at the beginning. In fact, I joined loads. I went and joined an absolute crap ton. Generally, to try and sell our business, to be really transparent. I didn't join them to go and get advice or anything like this. I joined them to spam the hell out of them about what we were doing as free ways of marketing. I quickly learned that did not work at all. It's a way of driving engagement. In fact, you probably did your brand more damage and your business and you more damage than you did good. But I guess that was the first time I started being aware of like all these sort of groups and things that were going on. I then quickly found that from all the ones I joined, I went and focused all the way down to 2 that I stayed with. And actually, I'm happy to share the 2 that I stayed with. One was called Happy People. I'm sure you're probably in Happy People, Amandine. Most people I know, you're not. Okay, we'll put you in Happy People. It's a massive WhatsApp group, and they've got one for startups founders, one for travelers and things like this. And it's a big WhatsApp group. And even now, we still use it every now and then. If there's something we know nothing about, actually, I don't know. I ask our community every time because we have more people in the community. Problem with WhatsApp is it's limited to 200 odd people or whatever it is. So it does, it's not a scalable group, but it is a good one to be part of. Why I left all the other groups and why I even thought there was any space to have a community in itself is I just felt that it's the degree of personalization. Like you can end up actually having a lot of meetings with the wrong people that waste a lot of time. And I think it's very easy to do, especially as a founder, because Anna used to say it to me, it's like someone's giving you validation, which is what you want at the beginning of your business. So it's like, oh, I'm interested in a partnership. I can help you fundraise. I can do whatever. And that person's giving you validation. But it's not always healthy. We found it, there was a point in our business about 3 or 4 months in where we weren't doing anything anymore. We weren't growing our audience. We weren't putting new features on the website. We weren't adding venues. And it's why we're spending all our time meeting people, having these discussions that went nowhere. And this is where I talk about meaningful connections. And I guess, as I said, the community grew organically for us, which I think is how a community probably does grow. Maybe you can be very strategic in how you do it. But for us, it was an organic experience through doing these networking events where we just built this mini community of 20, 30 people. And because it was such meaningful connections through having various interaction points of being able to meet in real life, being able to follow up online, having a sort of cadence of every Wednesday of a place to come together, it was putting in these extra touch points to really build a connection. A good example of how we try and do things like this in the business, we're talking about a podcast idea at the moment, and I'm saying, cool, well, if we do a podcast, let's make sure that we ask the community for topics, to vote on topics in Slack. So now they're engaged, they have a voice in it, they're going to want to hear the feedback. You can then follow up with the 2 people who run the podcast, who are Othership members, back in Slack again, so you can communicate here with them. We'll probably film it occasionally in one of our venues, so you can come and see it be filmed live in a venue. And it's building all these meaningful touch points and meaningful connections. And so I say, if you're looking for a community, be super careful. You don't waste your time. And the way to not waste your time is join ours.
Fine, yes. I'll make sure to add all the links and well, I think the best way is to go through your website. So I'll make sure to add the link to your website on the description of the video on YouTube. Before we wrap up, do you have any further tips, recommendation, resources other than communities that you enjoy? You mentioned podcast, maybe a podcast that you're following, or any other advice you want to mention for founders?
Oh, Lord. That's a tough one. Probably hundreds.
Yeah, it could be just the last book you've read, or anything that that really struck you, that was helpful, anything at all, or maybe nothing. I mean, that's okay. You don't have to answer that.
You've got one that I can see on your face. You found one.
My advice to founders, I think, is like, it's probably on the side. Like, it's an emotional journey. Don't ever think it's not. Don't think just because you're reading everything about what Peter Thiel or Eric Ries is up to or whatever, that's what your life is going to be like. Even Peter Thiel comes out and talks about the sort of fakeness in the sector, and there is a lot of fakeness where people say they're doing better than they are because that's the blag that people believe they need to have to get their VC investment and things. Like, it's tough. If you're hanging around with everyone else who's telling you it's not tough, they're lying to you, and you're probably somewhere in the wrong crowd. Like, I even remember when we first raised our first fundraise, a day that people celebrate and are excited. It was one of the scariest goddamn days of my life, and I wanted to vomit every morning for like a week and used to get in the bath and have a walk in the garden before I did anything in the morning. So yeah, if you're a founder out there, like, it is hard, and I get emotional at this point because the one thing that gets me through is this guy. Like, I love him to bits. If you don't have a co-founder, try and find one. That's my
this I would say is a really good advice, because I think the way we get by is by doing it together. I think this is sometimes it's going to be tough. Like, definitely, sometimes you're going to want to give up. And you have someone next to you to sort of like go through that, through this experience with you. It just makes the world of difference. And yeah, just being strong together is so different than just, trying to be strong on your own. Like, it's just, yeah, being on your own, I would say is going to be a tough journey. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't think a lot of people can do it. So I think having a co-founder that understands you is really important. And I would even go further and say probably the emotional attachment to your co-founder is more important than the skill sets. Yeah. If you find someone that you can work with, that understands you, that can help you and will have your back no matter what, then screw the skills. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter. You're both in sales, doesn't matter. You're both technical, doesn't matter. What matters is that you do it together. You're going to learn how to do new things anyway. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I can't.
Is that fair, Ben?
Oh yeah, it's definitely fair. And if you don't have one, like, find other people who can help you and take you on the journey.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Yes, and a big yes. Fantastic. I really had a great time chatting with both of you. Where can we find you online? So there is the website, right? Are you active in any other specific social media, any channel people should be aware of?
Yeah, so we're over on Instagram. It's at Othership with an underscore afterwards. We're over on Facebook. It's at othership.com, I believe. And we're on LinkedIn. And I think that one is just at Othership, potentially. So somewhere across the three of them with the domains now. And yeah, obviously the website's othership.com, and Slack's the way to go and find us. We've actually got a really cool campaign on. So if you're thinking of like joining potentially for the new year and a change of life, as you're going into those resolutions and want to get out as more or meet more people, I would recommend to join now because we're doing a really cool thing with Crisis. For anyone who doesn't know Crisis, they are a charity that supports people who are currently experiencing homelessness. And we're giving 50% of all our annual memberships, whether it's on our essential plan, our annual teams plan, or our premium annual plan, and half of that will go to Crisis over this month. We thought that was a lot more fun than doing a Black Friday offer. It doesn't really stick with our values as a business. So we're calling it Not Another Black Friday, and we'll run that all the way from Black Friday when we started up till the 25th of December now.
Perfect. So this interview is really coming at the right time for everyone. If you have to join, if you want to join, that's the good timing. Carpe Diem says that it's really wonderful advices, and they want to thank you for your tips and your story. So thank you very much for both of you for your time. It has been really a great opportunity to chat with you. You know, I know that we've been in touch in the past, but it's good to be able to do such a deep dive into your own journey. I really love that. Do you have any plans for Christmas? Anything you try to wrap up? Are you all ready to go, like to be in Christmas mode?
Well, I think all founders will have to work throughout, that there's never, no rest for the wicked, like we say. Obviously, we're going to breathe a little more because we'll be able to focus on, things we're going to do in the new year, etc. So it's like more of preparation. So there's no like hard deadline that we've got to meet on delivering anything. So it's in that sense, it's more of a breather. But obviously, we're going to have to work through the holiday period anyway. Unfortunately. Well, unfortunately or fortunately, like if you enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't really matter anymore.
I actually like to work when no one else is working because you can focus on different things. You don't have emails because no one will answer anyway. So you can actually do other stuff that require more concentration or work on a specific project during the Christmas time. Thank you very much to both of you. And thanks everyone for watching this video, or not watching this live AMA. You can find the video available on my YouTube on Monday afternoon. I'll make sure to do some promotion on social media, of course, so you know it's up and running. Also, if you have to take one action to support the channel, I definitely recommend you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, where you can always find all the previous interviews and more videos to come. And also it's the best way to support for free. So yeah, if you're gonna do something, one thing is just to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you are interested in keeping the discussion going, I have my Discord channel that is also always open, and you're not going to get like notifications all the time. We're not super active like that, but as soon as someone has a question, you have like different people from different places in the world, always happy to answer and to share their 2 cents. So check it out, and also feel free to reach out on Twitter. That's the best way to just say hi or get in touch. And as I said, keep an eye there, because I'll be announcing in the coming days more about some kind of gaming evening or something for the next week or so. God, it's coming really fast. I really need to get working on that. But yeah, and as I said, I'm going to bounce back ideas maybe on either Twitter or Discord over the weekend. So keep an eye out. Thanks everyone, and I wish you a good weekend ahead. The next stream is going to be next week, so usually it's every 2 weeks, but because of Christmas, the next live AMA will be next week, and then we'll do some other stuff during Christmas. Thanks everyone, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.